Mr. President. As mandated by paragraph 11G of Resolution 1844, it is my honor, in my capacity as Chair of the Sanctions Committee pursuant to Resolution 751 concerning Somalia, to brief the Security Council on the period from 27 June to 25 October 2019. During the reporting period, the committee convened 2 informal consultations. On 3 October, the committee received a briefing from the Deputy Director, Operations and Advocacy Division of the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. On the 14th report, pursuant of the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator, pursuant to paragraph 49 of Resolution 2444, on the delivery of humanitarian assistance in Somalia and on impediments thereto. This report was transmitted to the Security Council on 7 October and subsequently issued as a document. In her briefing, the Deputy Director concluded that, whereas Somalia was on a positive trajectory with key achievements on the political, economic, humanitarian, and security fronts, the country remained vulnerable to another climate shock and escalation of conflict. Furthermore, the delivery of humanitarian assistance continued to be compromised owing to inconsistent funding. That having been said, she highlighted that the humanitarian exemption to the assets freeze measures provided for in paragraph 48 of Resolution 2444 was essential. Humanitarian organizations had both collectively and individually strengthened systems to identify and detect risks of aid diversion, evaluate the capacity of implementing partners, and monitoring programs through enhanced auditing and reporting. The Deputy Director also called on the humanitarian community to supplement the sustained delivery of emergency assistance with longer-term solutions. On 15 October, the committee heard a presentation from the panel of experts on its final report, submitted pursuant to paragraph 54 of Resolution 2444. I will not summarize its content, which is to be transmitted to the Security Council in coming days. In the remarks, the coordinator of the panel highlighted the fact that al-Shabaab continued to pose a threat to both Somalia and the region, and that it has now been confirmed that they were manufacturing makeshift homemade explosives and had further expanded their revenue base stemming from the so-called taxation of virtually all trade in southern Somalia. Al-Shabaab was again deemed to be responsible for the highest number of attacks against civilians in violation of humanitarian law. The coordinator of the panel also noted that the ongoing standoff between the federal government of Somalia and federal member states had implications for peace and security in Somalia. Acknowledging the significant strides made by the federal government in public finance management, the coordinator nonetheless referred to work that had yet to be done in this arena. Turning to the arms embargo, the coordinator of the panel assessed that the measure had largely prevented heavier weapons from reaching Somalia and ultimately falling into the hands of al-Shabaab and other armed actors. Noting that the current political and security context was vastly different from 1992 when the embargo was first instituted, the coordinator of the panel stated that it was clear to the panel that the embargo needed to be streamlined, simplified, and updated so as to reflect the current realities of the counterinsurgency in Somalia. This included enhanced oversight on certain components and chemical precursors, including commercial explosives that might be used by al-Shabaab for the manufacture of improvised explosive devices, IEDs. Concerning the ban on the import and export of Somalian charcoal, the coordinator of the panel stated that it was no longer clear that al-Shabaab was deriving significant revenue from this trade, and recommended that a review be conducted of the ban in a manner that would take into account all considerations and implications for long-term peace and stability in Somalia, vis-a-vis the effective implementation of the relevant Security Council resolutions. The coordinator of the panel concluded his remarks by commenting on the committee's sanctions list, which had for years been dormant. He encouraged member states to leverage targeted sanctions to deter destructive behavior in Somalia, including by arms dealers, charcoal dealers, terrorism financiers, violators of international humanitarian law, and political spoilers. Committee members held a fruitful exchange of views with the panel of experts. They voiced appreciation and support for the work done by the panel under challenging circumstances. They voiced the hope that the federal government of Somalia will constructively engage in these efforts. Of the 15 recommendations contained in the panel's final report, only one is addressed to the committee. On Friday, 18 October, the committee agreed upon the action to be taken further to the recommendation addressed to it by the panel. The committee is in the process of taking action on this recommendation. Sir, also on 15 October, the Council heard a briefing by the head of the Global Maritime Crime Program on the international community's efforts to disrupt the charcoal trade to and from Somalia, and on the complex environment enabling terrorist groups and transnational organized crime groups to capitalize on porous borders so as to finance their operations. I wish to stress two major takeaways from this briefing. Charcoal production funds al-Shabaab. However, this is not a critical vulnerability to the group's funding. Investigations into the charcoal trade reveal strong connections between al-Shabaab and transnational organized crime syndicates, with the criminal activities covering the smuggling of persons, narcotics, and their chemical precursors, trafficking in weapons, sugar, tobacco, and bomb-making components. Mr. President, to conclude, I will summarize some of the arms embargo exemption statistics for the current reporting period, as well as some of the work carried out by the committee. The committee received 5 advance delivery notifications. Pursuant to paragraph 4 of Resolution 2142 and paragraph 14 of Resolution 2444, submitted by supplying member states, and 1 pursuant to paragraphs 14 and 22 of Resolution 2444, submitted by the federal government of Somalia. The committee also received from the federal government of Somalia 2 post-delivery confirmations pursuant to paragraphs 14 and 22 of Resolution 2444. The committee further received 9 advance delivery notifications pursuant to paragraph 10G of Resolution 2111. Moreover, the committee considered notifications in accordance with paragraph 11A of Resolution 2111 from supplying states. There was an absence of a negative decision. The committee also received 2 requests for guidance, one from a United Nations entity and the other from a member state, on the scope and implementation of the arms embargo. Thank you, Mr. President.